Hello there, and welcome back. I apologize for the lapse in content, but today I have something really special for you. Rack a lamb. I'm going to show you how to do it. And for your convenience, here's the ingredients. So rack a lamb is one of those things that I think people think is way harder than it actually is. Not to say that it's super easy, but in the same breath, it's really not that hard. Just like most things in life, as long as you have a healthy respect for what you're working with, everything should go well. But with all the chitchamachati out of the way, let's get into the prep. So I have my rack of lamb. The top part of the ribs came pre-Frenched, which is basically just this meat on the inside being cut out. Depending on where you get your lamb from, it might still have meat in between these bones, and you'll want to get a small paring knife or something of the sort and just cut that meat out to get it similar to this. Fortunately for me, somebody else did it, so I don't have to. I tried to find the biggest piece that I could for this video, but the largest one I could find was about 1.25 pounds, which is kind of small, really, small to medium. But for our purposes, it'll work just fine. So before we get started, it's good to know who's eating the lamb, how many people. A typical serving for adult is 2 or 3 ribs, and you can just cut through the ribs and get them into the pieces you want, or you can cook the whole thing as it is, you can cut it in half. It's really up to you. You're just going to want to be really careful because the smaller the piece is, the faster it's going to cook and the easier it is to overcook your lamb. But for my purposes today, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it in half. Something like that. Now lamb is a really lean meat, so if you can find one with a better fat cap than this, that is preferred. This fat cap is pretty small, but I'm still going to give it some striated cuts just to help all that fat render and really cook the lamb through. You don't have to use a lot of pressure, just a tiny little bit goes a long way. You just want to get some scoring in that fat to help it brown off and be delicious. Now lamb's flavor is already really intense and doesn't need a whole lot of help to elevate it. It's grassy, it's earthy, it's intense, and I will say raw lamb smells really funky. So if you open your package and you're like, holy cow, the lamb's off, I don't want to eat that, there's a good chance that that's just how it smells, and you don't have too much to worry about. And since I'm trying to really enjoy my lamb and not go too crazy with it, we're just going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper, and we're going to put it back in the fridge for about 30 minutes and let it dry brine just for a little bit to get some of that salt in the meat. And while it's dry brining, I'll show you how to make one of my absolute favorite sauces for the lamb, so we don't disappoint Gordon Ramsay. But just like that, your lamb's prepped. I told you it wasn't super difficult. And what is the sauce we're going to be making, you might ask? It's a cranberry mint sauce. And the reason it's a great sauce to accompany the flavors in the lamb, because of the tartness of the cranberry and the high-pitched flavors of the mint pair perfectly with lamb and help create sort of a bridge of flavor to round everything off and really take the whole dish to the next level. And I'm showing you this sauce part around this time of year because it's the only time you can get fresh cranberries. So if you end up enjoying this sauce, you can go ahead and buy some cranberries and freeze them, and then you can make this later on in the year. And any sauce you have left over, I'm telling you, goes amazing with eggs and toast, maybe a little bacon. It's just a thought. So let's get over to the stovetop for the beginning of the cook. So to get this whole thing started, go ahead and grab yourself a medium-sized saucepan and our old friend, Spatchy Boy, for this next part. Go ahead and pop your saucepan on about a medium, maybe to medium-high heat. It really just depends on your range. Let that heat up just a little bit, and then we're just going to go ahead and add our cranberries, add our sugar, throw in some water, and toss in your mint. Now typically when you make a compote, you don't really need water, but cranberries don't have a ton of moisture in them, so we need it there to kind of help get the whole process started, but we're going to boil most of that off. We're just going to mix everything in, let this come up to a bit of a simmer, almost to a boil, until the cranberries start to pop and open up and let all their tastiness out and the mint cooks down, and really get ourselves a tasty sauce for our lamb. Just a little bit of time and a little bit of love, and you can really make this dish shine. I almost forgot, I'm going to add just a pinch of salt to it, just to help open up the flavor. So all the cranberries now are starting to split and crack. It's probably hard to see on the camera, but that's what you're looking for. They'll sound a little bit like popcorn going off, and they'll start to split and open up and release all the meat from the inside of the cranberries. So we're just going to stir them around and make sure that all of them open up like that, and as they cook down, start to press them a little bit so that we can push all that delicious cranberry flavor out of the cranberries and make our sauce. And I'll be honest, if you've never smelled cranberry and mint cooking together, it really smells like the holidays. I don't know why there's no candles that smell like cranberry and mint. I would buy them in bulk if they had them. There probably is candles that smell like that. They have like wood at Home Depot and Sharpie and all kinds of goofy flavors. I suppose I've never really looked that hard for any. And now I'm trying to press these cranberries up against the side of the saucepan to help push some of that meat out and really get it incorporated into all the other liquids. Whichever way works best, as long as you're squeezing some of that flavor out. If you don't do a perfect job, it's fine. We're going to be running it through a strainer into a bowl, and that'll press the rest of it out if this part doesn't go that well for you. That smells mighty fine. And you can make this sauce as thin or as thick as you'd like, but I'm looking for a consistency that's kind of close to ketchup, if that makes sense, where it's still easily pliable, but it kind of stays in place when you put it on something. Probably a weird way to describe what I'm doing with this, but I feel like it makes sense. Make sure to give it a little taste and see if it needs any sugar or anything crazy. Just be careful, because it's super hot. It tastes pretty good to me. A little bit of time, a little bit of love goes a long way here. And this whole thing, if you were wondering, takes about 10 or 15 minutes. It's not too crazy. It's still a little bit thin, but it'll thicken up as it cools down. So I'm going to take it off the heat, then I'll meet you back over at the cutting board to show you how to do the rest. And to get that sauce smooth and nice, we're going to use a stainless steel bowl or a bowl of some kind and a fine mesh strainer. And then go ahead and just dump that sauce right in there. Make sure to get everything out of the saucepan that you can. And then we're just going to take our rubber spatula and try and force all that deliciousness through. The fine mesh strainer is here to catch all the big pieces that we don't want in our sauce. And again, this is going to take a minute, but it is absolutely worth it. Scrape all that excess off the bottom. Make sure we don't leave any of that goodness behind. Being very careful not to get any on our fingers, because this is really hot and sticky. And voila, you have a delicious cranberry mint sauce. Go ahead and give it a taste. You earned it. Again, being careful, because it is very hot. Phenomenal. Then I'm just going to put this in some kind of storage container and set it in the fridge, let it chill out, and it'll be ready for when the lamb's done. And we got about 2 cups worth, which is way more than we'll need, but not a bad turnout. So we've got our sauce ready. The lamb's been brining for, I'd say, about 25 minutes, which is good enough for me. So I'll meet you back over at the oven for the lamb. So hot and fast is the name of the game here. We want to sear the lamb really well to get a nice Maillard over it, but we don't want to really cook the meat on the inside, or it's going to end up overcooked when we finish it in the oven. So this is probably going to smoke out. It might set your smoke alarm off. It's going to seem crazy, but you got to just trust me. You got to hit it hard and fast. And to do that, I'm going to take my frying pan, crank that bad boy up to a medium-high heat. I'm going to add just a little bit of bacon grease to help it kind of get started. And we're going to make absolutely sure to let this come up to temperature. That way we can hit it hard and fast and not kind of screw it up really. And once it's seared off, we're going to finish it in the oven at 350 for about 5 to 10 minutes, or until the internal temperature is about 130 or 132. We want the lamb after it's rested to finish at about 135 to get a nice medium rare in it. So pulling it out of the oven a little bit early and letting it finish its cook on the cutting board is going to be the name of the game here. So my pan's nice and hot, but I'm going to have to turn my overhead unit off to mitigate some of that smoke and sear and just wildness. So this next part might be hard to hear. If it's muted with just music, that'd be why. Just keep an eye on what I'm doing and it should work fine. Fat side down to start. And this should take a minute or two aside, give or take. And there you are. It's not so bad. So now I'm just going to pop this in the oven for about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and then take the temperature, see where I'm at, go from there. So I'll see you back at the cutting board for the final reveal. Alright, if I did my job right, these should be just about perfect. The little set of the rack took about 8 or 9 minutes to finish off in the oven, and this big boy here took like 12 or 14, if I remember correctly. One thing to keep in mind if you split it like this is each one of these is going to finish at a different time, and just to be mindful of the little guy and make sure they don't get overdone. But we're going to go ahead and let these sit here for about 10 or 15 minutes and finish cooking and resting and all that good stuff, and then we'll go ahead and cut and serve. Alright, let's give this a cut and see how I did. They're a little overdone, but not too shabby. So let's get them on a plate and get ready to eat. Gonna take some of this cranberry mint compote that we made. Give a little swoosh for some accent. Get one of these bad boys in the back, and then plop those guys right on there like that. Not so bad if I do say so myself. And I just want to take a quick second and thank everybody who's been hanging around watching the videos. I really appreciate y'all. And if this is the first time you've tuned in, you picked a good video, and thanks for stopping by. But as I always say, if it's bad for the heart, it's good for the soul. I'll see you in the next one. Also, if you didn't already know, I have a Patreon where you can download these recipes so you can print them and cook along off a sheet of paper. So you don't have to have your phone going and pause and do all that craziness. And those recipes usually come out within a week after the video launches, so if you want to support the channel and be able to print the recipes out to cook with, that's where you do it. I also have an Instagram that I don't post enough on, but I do post on. All the links will be down in the description, so if you feel like it, check it out. And I'll see you all in the next video.